Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Seven Job Search Myths Busted. Get the
We
work
might
and the
even get
life
more
you
than
love.
7 today.
Well, if we have time, Bruce, we'll more than seven, but we have chosen seven. Hello, everyone. I'm Walt Hampton, career and success coach, executive director of Summit Success, personal and professional development firm, and I'm so pleased to be joined by my colleague and friend, Bruce Blackwell, president of Career Strategies Group. Hello there, Bruce.
Hello there, Walter. Delighted to be with you today.
What a treat. You and I have been doing this work together for quite some time, and one of the things that we know about the folks who looking for jobs is they held up, they got stuck when they want to make a change. And we see this all the time in people who desperately are unhappy in their work and yet still want to bust out and try something new. And
Yeah, but
so,
yeah, go ahead. They're trapped by these myths.
yes, absolutely. And the idea, of course, is to see if we can share with them tools, tips, and strategies that will allow them to bust out and to have a change for the better. Um, and you and I have seen all sorts of things that hold folks up, all sorts of things that hold people back. And what we know for sure is that when you want to get unstuck, you need some help. And that's the work we do. So I would like to just kind of lay the foundation here for what we're going to do in this webinar. We're going to share with folks the seven big ones we hear most often. If we have time, we're going to expound on some others. We want to leave maybe 10 or 15 minutes at the end of the webinar so that folks can ask questions. We've got a chat box going on the right-hand side. If you have questions that you want to include, if we have time, we'll certainly address them. If we don't have time, either Bruce or I will circle back and email you with some responses on them. But we want to cover as much ground as we can, and we hope you'll stay to the end of the hour because we've got an exciting program to share with you, and we're going to end up at the end of the day with all seven of the myths busted up for good. Bruce, you need to quiet up your phone there because the box is taking
Busy
over.
place, Walter. Busy place.
I know. So here's what's true is the best is yet to come. You know, sometimes when we get stuck, sometimes when things are feeling bleak, we think we're stuck in our old life. But the best is yet to come. I truly believe that. I see that in all of our coaching clients day in and day out, Bruce. I see that when they stay the path, when they bust through the mess, when they break free, they create incredibly exciting lives. And that's what we want for the listeners on the show today. You know, you and I do a lot of work with lawyers, and some of our comments today will be directed toward our lawyer peeps, but we're also mindful that the myths are pervasive, that they really apply across a broad spectrum of people and industries, and so whether you're caught in the law or you're caught in banking or a profession, you're not alone, and the best is yet to come.
If you choose to make it so, yes.
Well, choice is the bottom line. You know, we can choose to stay stuck or we can choose to break free, but information is power, and having the right information, knowing what's true, what's fact versus what's fiction, I think is absolutely key in order to take that first step in order to move forward. And so, a few minutes or so, we're going to really focus on what's true and what's not true, and break up some of these things that we know people back. So I'm going to, if that's okay, Bruce, I'm going to just jump right into myth number one.
I can't think of a better time.
All right. So, how apropos.
Yes, really. It's completely unplanned and unrehearsed.
Well, we do like to riff, but that was particularly well done. Myth number one, I hear it all the time. It's probably the top one. It's not the right time. So here's how it goes. I want the new job, but I've got to wait for the bonus. That's a particularly common one I'm hearing right now in the last quarter as we approach the last quarter of the year. I've just got to get through to January. Or I need to wait till I get the promotion, or I need to wait to get the partnership, or I need to wait till the kids get out of school, or I need to wait till my wife retires, or I need to wait till till I retire. It's too soon. It's just not the right time. And here's what's really true. Here's what's true across the board is that it's never the right time.
Yeah.
There are always going to be excuses. There are always going to be reasons why you can't do it now. And what I've seen for all too long, you too, Bruce, that people wait. They put this stuff off, and some serious time goes by. You know, you and I like to say that I'm a success story of career strategies. I came out of school in 1984 and got a plum job. Immediately realized that I had not the right work for me. And I came to visit you when your business was first launching so many years ago. What's curious is that even though you told me what I needed to do, even though you debunked a lot of the myths, I was a single dad at the time. I was in a prestigious firm. I was making good money. And it was not, in my mind, the right time. And I didn't act then. And I don't have very many regrets in my life. I really don't. But when I look back at that opportunity, I realize I should have grabbed it then, because even though there were many complications, life was simpler then, it was more straightforward then. I let another 20 years go by, Bruce, before I actually decided that it was finally the right time. And so it's not the right time is always going to be an excuse, and it's not a good one.
Just think about how much time you lost. I mean, you have really built a tremendously exciting life for yourself, a very fulfilling life. You delayed that 20-odd years because there wasn't a good time to get started.
Well, so I thought, and the truth is that in everyone's life, there are always excuses, there are always reasons why we don't want to do what we do when we do it. But you know, time goes by whether we like it or not, and so it's not the right time is a myth. It will never ever be the right time.
It's the John Lennon line: "Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans." This is about planning your life and actually moving forward.
Amen. Amen. And so, you know, what we want for folks is to realize that now is the time. Now is the only time we have. Tomorrow is promised to no one.
No, that's right.
And so it's time to act. So I'm going to move on to myth number 2. I think you want to take this one.
Sure. Okay. One of the myths is that you have to go backward if you're going to make a re-careering adjustment, if you're going to be leaving a law firm or leaving the practice, that you have to go back to an entry-level position or that you have to go back economically. This would seem on the face of it to make sense. It's logical. But one of the things that I've learned, and I've been studying job search and career development, this is my 30th anniversary year of detailed study on this. What we've learned is that most of the common wisdom about job search, most of the myths are just that. They're myths. They're wrong. In our experience, and we've been in practice for 2 decades plus, you don't go backwards. People will realize what you're bringing to the table. This is a way of leveraging your background, your skills, your interest, and moving it forward. So the vast majority of the people that we know who have changed careers out of law firms into something else have done as well or better economically than they were doing in the law firm, and they're working at mid to senior level management roles. So the idea that you have to go back to square one, that you have to start an entry-level position with entry-level salary is baloney.
Yeah, I hear it all the time in our clients that you know, they think the step backwards is the only way it is, and the truth is it's not a step backwards, as you said. It's not the wrong way. It is the right way, and you know, I think particularly successful people, you know, people who have achieved great success, even doing what they don't love. I mean, if you've succeeded doing work you don't love, think about how on fire you could be with work that you loved. And the truth is that the step into the work you love, because you're filled with passion, is usually one that accelerates beyond all expectations. You know, there was a study done at the University of Chicago 20 years ago, and it tried to understand the elements of what constituted truly successful people, and they controlled for socioeconomic background and marital status and race and culture and all sorts of stuff. And they realized that the only thing that distinguished the successful from the unsuccessful was extraordinary drive fed by passion. And when we're passionate about our work, we're going to supercharge our success. We're going to break through the barriers. And what's possible for us is incredible. The possibilities are truly endless if we put aside that myth that taking that step to the new work is somehow a step backwards. Can I move on?
Please do.
So this was one that you and I had talked about as well, which is you need some kind of direct experience to move into new work.
This is another very common myth, commonly accepted myth, that we have seen is simply not true. If you, as the if you're lawyers, you can no doubt tell story after story about how the partner came in one day and threw a file on your desk in an area of law that you had no prior experience, and you had to deal with it in a day or two. You guys have the ability to learn, to master new things, deal with challenges. So you don't need the direct experience. You've got the brain power to learn it. And companies, when you're doing a career transition, they're going to know what they're getting. You may not have the experience in the job function or the industry, but you're going to be hired for the experience that you do have in problem solving, in analysis, in looking at situations from a variety of different perspectives. You can learn whatever the industry is or the function as you have learned practice areas in law. What makes you good at what you do is how you approach the problems and the perspective you bring. So that's really what you're selling.
Yeah, you know, and I don't care whether it's, you know, in the law, per se. I mean, that's certainly what we hear from our lawyer chiefs quite often. But it's also prevalent. You know, one of our clients is an MBA that was he was in hedge funds or finance, and he wants now to work in the nonprofit sector. He wants to do fundraising, and he's a very talented young man. And you know, debunking the idea that somehow you need to have direct experience as opposed to the wonderful set of tools that you get in your current job, in your education, in your experience. You know, as lawyers, we show up with problem-solving skills, analytic skills, advocacy skills, listening skills, communication skills.
Writing and research, don't forget those.
Writing and research, and you know, this is true in banking, it's true in medicine, it's true in industry, it's true in entrepreneurship. And at the end of the day, what I have found in working with our clients is all we need is already within us now. All we need, all of those elements of success are there. They're locked, they're loaded, they're just waiting for us to implement. And so often we get afraid to move just because of the fear that somehow we don't have, quote, the right experience. And you and I have found that, you know, when we tool the resume, when we tool the cover letter, when we really have people step into their power, step into the tools that they own, that they're wildly successful.
Yeah, one of the issues with lawyers is that they will tend to define themselves by their practice areas. It's not how you do it. What makes you good at what you do is not your knowledge of civil procedure, it's your knowledge of how you deal with clients, how you analyze problems, whatever. One of my favorite tales is we had a personal injury a plaintiff side attorney that became a vice president and assistant general manager of a TV station on the strength of his negotiation skills. In the context of working with us, he had mentioned that he had negotiated thousands of settlements. So my goodness, you know, if you've done something thousands of times, you're probably pretty good at it. And this particular TV station needed somebody to negotiate real estate leases for their towers and their leasehold. They needed program syndication negotiations. They needed labor negotiations. This was all foreign territory to this guy in terms of the experience. But when it came to making things happen and making deals happen, he was terrifically talented. So that was a whole new recareering, and that's just one of literally thousands of examples of lawyers who have gone on to totally different areas using the experience and the tools that they don't even realize they have.
Well, you know, I see this all the time. You know, I see it in lawyers. I see it. I saw it in this MBA grad. I see it in other professionals with whom we work. When we start out, you know, if we get a business degree or a law degree or a public administration degree, we're told that we have so much versatility. You know, I remember in particular standing on the threshold of law school, and I was told, oh, the JD is a versatile degree. You can do anything with it.
You want with a lawyer.
Yeah, that's what you can do. You know, you can do education, you can do government, you can do politics, you can go into private practice, you can do NGOs, and the same thing is told of MBA students and other professionals. You can do anything, you can go anywhere. And then, you know, when we get pigeonholed, as you alluded to, we start going down these rabbit holes, I call them, of, you know, you become an estate planner, or you become a private banker, or you become a hedge fund person, and all of a sudden your entire identity is caught up in the idea that that's who you are and that's all you can possibly ever do. And it's a myth.
It is absolutely a myth. You can do a lot more, and we're going to talk about that as we go through the program today. Which actually gets us to the next slide.
Well, let me put the next slide up.
There you go.
I think you were going to lead on this as well. It's a great slide, so take it away.
Sure. I can't do anything else. I'm locked into my career. I spoke not long ago with a 28-year-old lawyer. They're 3 years out of law school. She felt she was typecast and could never break out and do anything else. It's ludicrous on its face. You have, and whether you're 28 or 58 or 68, you have the ability to do many different kinds of things. If you have survived law school, passed the bar, gotten admitted, dealt with cases large and small, you could certainly go in a different direction. The sense of being locked in is really more, I think, based on fear and self-doubt about ability to make a change. One of the things that we've also found about working with attorneys is that they have serious doubts about whether they are able to do other things because they know the law and they're not so sure they can do as well in a different area. Of course you can. Just have to figure out, get out of your own way and look at what makes you good at what you do.
Yeah, I love that, Bruce. You know, the cocktail party question, the networking question of what do you do? that's, it becomes our identity. What do you do? I'm a lawyer, um, and that what do we do becomes our entirety, and we really lose sight of who we are and what we have to offer, separate apart from identity. It's certainly true. It's particularly true among men. I don't mean to make it a gender issue, but it's a particular issue of identity being tied up with job. High-performing women, successful folks of all genders suffer horribly with this identity issue. And once we tie ourselves to I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm an anchor, the thought of changing identities terrifies us. It absolutely terrifies us. And our job is part of who we are, and we deserve to have the work and the life we love. We absolutely deserve that. But our jobs are not the entirety of who we are. They're not the core of who we are.
You know, even though people may be dissatisfied in their careers, they know what they have. There's a fear of if I go and try something else and it doesn't work out, I'm no longer what I used to be. I'm not a lawyer. I failed at this other thing. What am I going to be? And so, because of this fear and the belief they can't do anything else, well, they'll stay where they are, and they can live those lives of quiet desperation. It's really a shame. I hate to see people waste their lives that way.
It's really sad because, as I said earlier, whether we like it or not, the time will go by. And
more quickly than you realize, too.
Yes. So that whole notion that you are your job and that you can't do anything else. You chose it at the beginning. You went after it at the beginning. You can choose something new. It is, as we said before, a choice, and the choice is yours. The choice is always yours.
There's another big myth, Walt, I think you're going to talk about that is looming very large these days, and it's one that we really want to overcome today.
Well, I was chatting with one of our clients a little earlier today. The myth is there's too much risk out there in the world. I might be miserable. I might be unhappy. I might not have the work and life I love, but I'm safe where I am. I'm an associate on the partnership track. I'm a banker who's going to be promoted to manager in 6 months. All I need to do is to hang in there a little longer to get the partnership. I'm a partner in a firm. I'm an accounting partner. I'm a law partner. I'm safe. And to do anything else would be absolutely crazy. It would be too risky for me to do anything else. And you know, that's crazy because you and I have both seen big Wall Street firms come blowing apart. We've seen all sorts of organizations come tumbling down. It's often not as safe inside the big organization as it is in a smaller organization, as it is in an entrepreneurial organization. When I first started law school, came out of law school in 1984 and went with the quote big firm, it was still a time when you could be a technocrat, when you could be a technician, you could be a tax lawyer and have your head down all the time in your office solving tax problems, or you could be a estate planner and have your head down and all the time just doing the work. And that model is gone. The truth is now everybody has the responsibility to be an entrepreneur. I don't care if you're a partner at a big firm or an accountant at a big firm. You better know how to get out there in the world and develop business and network and build a clientele, because without that, your illusion of security is just that.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth in that, Walter, and one of the things we both know, and I expect the audience knows as well, that to be successful as a lawyer, you don't have to be a good lawyer. You have to be good at bringing in clients. And
Yes.
the people that survive in big law or in solo practice are the ones that know how to generate business and keep reinventing themselves at doing the stuff that people don't go to law school to do, which is to become salesmen. That's not the reason, but it's something that's totally necessary. And you could be the best lawyer in the firm, but if you don't eat what you kill and provide some food for the other folks, your career is in some jeopardy. I look back.
I was just.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I look back on some of the big nameplate law firms that were around when I started practice in 91, 92, and how many of those firms have bitten the dust. And the same thing, there was I don't recall the decade spread, but in one 10-year period, literally half of the Fortune 500 disappeared. They either went out of business or were acquired by other firms. 50% of the largest companies in the United States disappeared in a 10-year period. The security is not in a job. The security is in understanding what you bring to the table, what your skills are, keeping current and staying a little bit ahead. The companies are going to come and go. You're still going to be around, but you've got to keep a pace of the changes and continue to learn new things.
Yeah, I love that you said that, Bruce, because it is our unique value proposition that at the end of the day makes us valuable, makes us essential to any organization, and thinking otherwise is simply a fallacy. I was on with one of our coaching clients today, and he's been a very successful partner at a big firm, but all of a sudden the current finances aren't looking so good, and all of a sudden he's very, very, very concerned that the firm is going to come unwound. And this is a guy who's had a lot of security, a lot of prestige, a lot of good stuff going on for a long, long time, and all of a sudden he's looking down the barrel at a potential loss, and that's really scary for him. So we need to realize that the security piece is a story we make up inside ourselves.
Yes. And the true security is going to be inside ourselves.
Absolutely. The true security is stand in that place of tremendous value. Each of us has unique gifts and talents that we share with the world. When we stand in a place of value, when we realize that value, we can show up in any job and do exceedingly well if we know truly what our value proposition is.
On that point, I had a conversation not too long ago with the vice president of HR at a conglomerate, a mini conglomerate. And she was saying that they prefer to bring in senior management from outside of the industries that they serve because they have a different perspective and they look at things in a different way. And this is a major publicly held company that looks to bring in the best talent that they can. The talent can learn the business, but it's already bringing things that experience alone won't get you. It's personality traits, managerial skills. The fellow, by the way, who's responsible for turning around Chrysler, is a former lawyer, and he's turning Chrysler into a viable company again. That's just one of the examples.
Yeah, well, I guess what's really important, I think, for our listeners to take home is that security is a story we make up, and it's usually just that. It's usually just a story. May I move on?
Sure. There are other myths as well, and one of the next ones is.
I will take it. This is mine.
Okay, it's yours.
It's too big. It will take too long. And I was writing about this today. You know, it's interesting that even wildly successful people, perhaps especially successful people, fret about this. It's too big. It will take too long. You know, if you get into you get to the end of law school or business school, and you get into a career, you get into an accounting firm or a law firm or whatever the profession is, and you spend 2 or 3 years, and all of a sudden you start questioning whether the work is right for you, and you think all of a sudden, oh my God, I've got to redirect, I've got to retool. So that begins to loom as this huge obstacle in people's minds. It's gonna take way too long to get to where I want to get to. It's way too big a project. You know that I've written a couple of books, and I'm always fascinated when somebody will come up to a book signing and they say, you know, I'd like to write a book, but it would take way too long to do that. I don't know where you find the time. I'm an ultra marathoner. I'm one of these crazy dudes who runs 50 and 100-mile road races. And if I were to be asked even today, how do you run a 50 or 100-mile race? It's almost incomprehensible to me. But I do know that you do it like you might eat an elephant. You do it one bite at a time. You do it one step at a time, 1 mile at a time. If you're retooling and you really feel like you need to make a new course, a new degree, it's one course at a time. It's just one chapter at a time. It's one verse at a time. What's absolutely true is that time is going to pass, whether you like it or not. And the project may be big, but if you don't start, if you don't take the first step, you're never, ever going to get there. You know, I love that quote from Martin Luther King Jr. You know, you don't need to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step in faith. Take that first step, and then the next step will become obvious that you need to take, and then the next step after that. And it's the taking one step at a time and staying at it no matter what that gets us to where we want to go. One of my very, very, very favorite stories of all, and you've heard it before, Bruce, but indulge me so that I can tell it again, because I often tell it when I am doing speaking events. One of my very favorite stories is the story of Cliff Young. Cliff was a potato farmer from Sydney, Australia, and Cliff had never run a race before of any significance, and he showed up at the granddaddy of all ultra marathons, the Sydney to Melbourne 544-mile ultra marathon, and he wanted to register for the race. And of course, the race officials wanted his experience, and he said, well, no, I haven't ever run an ultra marathon before, but I chase sheep for a living, so I ought to be able to do it. And, you know, they got the lawyers and the risk managers involved, and they didn't want Cliff to register for this race, but he was pretty persistent. And finally, after signing off on all of the releases, they relented, and off Cliff went on the 544-mile ultra marathon, running from Sydney to Melbourne. And Cliff just kept on going. If you Google Cliff Young, those of us who are listening in, you'll see wonderful YouTube videos of it. They've got the ultra marathoners refer to it as the Cliff Young shuffle. He just shuffles along, shuffles along, shuffles along. Now here's what's interesting. 6 days later, after Cliff starts the Sydney and Melbourne Ultra Marathon, 6 days later, Cliff crosses the finish line. He's first. He breaks the course record by 2 days, and he beats his nearest competitor by 10 hours. And how did he do it? Cliff didn't know that he was supposed to stop. Ultra marathoners always know that, you know, it's like a running buffet, and in the long runs you actually stop, you eat, you take naps. Cliff didn't know that. He didn't know he was supposed to stop. He didn't know he was supposed to rest. He just kept at it. And what's true, whether it be the job you want, whether it be the relationship you want, whether it be your ideal health, the key is, regardless of how big it looks, to take one step and then another step and then just to stay at it. The idea that, you know, you can just say, well, it's too big, I'm not going to do it, just leaves you in the same place. And time, some pretty serious time, will pass you by. So Big Cliff Young, and don't believe the myth that it's too big and will take too long.
When I talk with lawyers about complex litigation and doing document review, where you walk into a room and there were hundreds of thousands of documents to go through, how do you take on a task like that? I would throw up my hands and quit. But it's a matter of organizing the process, setting forth a plan, and then executing one step at a time, one document at a time. It's not, you can't look at a job search or a career change as one gigantic process. You have to look at it as a series of distinct and discrete actions to move things forward.
Well, and anybody who's on this call today is already successful.
Yeah.
You know, the folks who show up on our doorstep are successful people who know how to get stuff done. And, you know, the it's too big, it's too long myth is just an excuse that allows us to stay in that place of safety without having to risk it all. And, you know, in a minute, we'll talk about that last great myth of all, which holds us back. Before we do,
one thing on that point, though, you would not, all the things that lawyers do with clients, you would not tell a client that's coming into you, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Client, but this is just too big a matter for us to deal with. When it comes to huge and complex and difficult situations that you've dealt with, you manage to get it through for your client. You have to be able to do it for yourself now. Okay, that's that little add-on piece.
Well, you know, it's fascinating. I'm glad you raised that, because what's fascinating, Bruce, is that helping professionals, doctors, lawyers, accountants, we're the worst at taking care of ourselves. We're the worst at doing what we know can be done for other people. And so that, you know, that too big, too long is kind of a smoke screen we send up so that we can just stay in a place of safety or perceived safety.
Yes, quite so.
So we have another big myth. It's probably the granddaddy of all myths to share with folks. But I know that folks are, you know, some of folks are short of time, and before we finish up and add on that granddaddy of all myths, you know, much of what we're sharing today will motivate people to take a move forward. And many people know how to take that move forward, but there may be some folks who don't know what the next step is. They'll say, okay, Bruce, okay, Walt, I get that all that stuff is a myth. Now, what do I do? And I know, Bruce, you know, before I came on board at Career Strategies, you and our mutual colleague, Doug Brown, who is now Executive Director of the Connecticut Bar Association, together a wonderful program. And I know that you want to share it with our listeners. So I just want to turn the presentation over to you for a minute before we jump into that last granddaddy myth.
Sure enough. Okay, one of the, as Walter pointed out, they don't know where to begin. It's, what do I do now? How do I take that first step? We have a solution for that. We call it the Innovative versus Traditional Job Search Strategies. It's an online webinar. It's about our job search success system that is a multi-part series that you can watch at your leisure. It's designed to give you control over where you're going. As Walter had said before, knowledge is power. Well, sure, this is going to provide knowledge for you, not just about how to do a job search, but how to build a successful career. We have the next slide, Walt?
Oh, I will come right up to it right now. There it is, sorry.
And, all right, what we cover, and it's 4 sessions, online sessions. We have 15 chapters of the system. This was put together, it's a multidisciplinary approach designed to take this rather humongous task or seemingly humongous task and break it down into bite-sized pieces. So in the first session, we deal with the tried and true traditional job search methods. Oops, could you back up one?
I can do that. I have the technology.
Okay, good. All right. Yes, okay. Well, we'll sort of vamp on the first session is about basics. It's debunking some of the myths about how to find where jobs are. You're probably not going to find your next job with an online classified. You're probably not going to find it through recruiters, and you're probably not going to find it through what I call old-fashioned networking, which is talking to people you know in hopes they know of openings for you. These are, I call the traditional triad. It's what everybody does. Sooner or later they'll probably work, but it's more often later than sooner. So we need to understand how to play these cards as effectively as possible and then move on to the next session, which deals with more innovative methods, ways of dealing with technology to uncover openings through job boards. And particularly important is how do you reach out to companies? How do you contact them directly with your story? People don't know how to do that. This is a very important part of our webinar is the reach out part. Another important concept that we deal with that people don't really think about very much, we call targeting. Where do you want to work? What specific companies are you interested in, and how can you make something happen inside those companies? Well, we know, and this is going to provide information. We also deal with what is becoming one of, if not the most powerful job search tool in the market today, and that's LinkedIn. And I hear every day, still, from lawyers and clients, I'm not even on LinkedIn, or I don't pay attention to that, or I think this should be a private matter. Well, think what you want. And this is how people are finding people these days. This is how companies are finding candidates. We're going to expose you to the better ways to utilize technology and to do what we call indirect networking, which is not asking for jobs. It's a lot more to it, and it produces much better results. This world is going to get to the most powerful of all the myths, but I believe the most powerful of all job search methodologies. It's leveraging change. We've got a whole dedicated to that. We have the takeoff part in session number 3 is, all right, how do I begin? We've got a way to help you understand what your skills are, not your practice area skills, but what your real skills are, and how to create a value statement based on what you have produced, problems you have resolved for clients, for friends, even in academics. We'll help you. A lot of clients, and Walt, I'm sure you hear this all the time too, because I don't really know what else is out there. I don't even know where I want to go. I know what I don't want to do, but I don't know what I do want to do. Well, in Chapter 12, we have some great tools to help you figure out where you really want to be. And then the next chapter, we get down to reality about how to present yourself to the marketplace. It's putting together a powerful resume that's not just going to address your duties and responsibilities, but going to show your value. And then in the last chapter, this is a really important part of it as well, is a plan. People spend more time planning their vacations than they do planning their job search. When Walt was talking about the bigness of all this, we create a plan, and we show you how to create a plan that's not overwhelming, that takes things step by step by step. So I call it checklistable. You can follow the plan, and you'll the last chapter is, okay, after the strategy's done, what do I do now to get this thing moving forward? And we have some really powerful tools to be able to help you get that new job and start a career area that you really enjoy.
So I know that you priced this way up high at $197, which I thought was a great deal to start with, Bruce, but you want our listeners to have it today, or at least till the end of the week at a special discount.
Yes, I think because of the importance of this, and our job, and we're coaches, we're counselors. Yes, we're higher, but we also want to we believe in helping people find careers that they can connect with and overcoming some of their personal obstacles. This is designed to show them how to do it. So for this week, for people that are taking the initiative to attend this webinar, we're offering it's more than 50% off. It's 50% and some change off the regular webinar. It stars myself and Douglas Brown, who is now the executive director of the bar, and who was once a career strategies client also. Imagine this, he was an unhappy lawyer.
Wow, is that true?
Half off is a way that you can use these powerful new tools and change your life.
And Bruce, you got a great book that I twisted your arm to add in as well.
There is.
You want to throw that in the mix, don't you?
I sure do. Yeah, the special bonus offer. Walter's written. I think you have 2 books under your belt now. I believe. Right?
I have 2 books, but we're not selling those today.
Okay, I have.
We're giving away your book today.
Giving away mine. I have one book that is essentially a preview edition. We call it "Caught by the Law," and it's designed for folks who feel that they are. This shows them how to get uncaught. Regularly, it's $14.95. For those of you who are ordering today for the webinar, we will give you the guidebook. It's based on my God, more than 2 decades of experience counseling attorneys on career change and job search. We deal with also issues regarding the practice of law today and why it's become much more difficult than it was back when you started, Walt. Everybody says in the old days it was a whole lot better than it is today. Well, we look at the factors and what you can do about them. We've got some specific actions you can take on determining what the right job should be and what it's going to take to be successful in the process. So it's if I do say so myself, it's a well thought out book based on a lot of experience, and it's yours for free today for purchasing the webinar.
All right, but Bruce, I want to twist your arm a little more. We had a bazillion people sign on for this webinar. A lot of folks are going to be listening to it at their leisure after hours in the next couple of days or so. So I'm going to make an executive decision that will keep this open until the end of the week this week, if that's okay.
I think that sounds reasonable enough. Sure, I can go along with that.
All right, so you're going to get the great educational series that usually is $195 plus Bruce's awesome book, which is a gem, for $97. You'll get the link at the career strategies. It should be in a pop-up window to your right. If it's not, we'll send you the live link with the recording, which will go out in the hour or so. You'll have the link to get the series and the book, and we'll get that right out to you. But Bruce, I see that we are kind of running around time, so I want to move to the next.
What is the biggest myth, Walter?
The big myth of all, and we don't like to admit, I'm afraid. Fear used to be a healthy thing. When we were roaming the savannah, fear, which resides in our ancient brain, our amygdala, kept us safe. Kept us on guard for the woolly mammoths who wanted to chase us. But last time I checked in the greater Hartford area, which is where I live, or lower Manhattan, there were not a lot of woolly mammoths around. And the fear that was meant to keep us safe now keeps us playing small. It keeps us from stepping out of that place of moderate discomfort, that place of quiet discouragement, because we hold in our mind and hearts all of these things that might happen if we step out, the risks that we talked about, the hardships that we discussed, the perceptions of what it means to stop doing what we've been doing to give up that identity that we've been so comfortable with and to do something else. And the fear, I love the acronym that others have coined, it's not mine, false evidence appearing real. What we think is meant to keep us safe really just keeps us stuck over time. And here's what I know. You know, there's a reason why our comfort zones are called comfort zones. It's because they're pretty damn comfortable. We stay in this place because we know it. It's familiar. And it feels, as we said before, safe. But what I also know is that we are the average of the 5 people we hang out with most, the 5 colleagues we hang out most, the 5 friends, average in terms of socioeconomic class, in terms of what we drive, in terms of what's in our bank account, in terms of where we live. We're average. That's the average. That's our comfort zone. And what happens is thermostatically drop below that comfort zone. You know, if you think about a thermostat, your life is set at 68 degrees and you start falling beneath that comfort zone. The temperature starts to drop. The furnace kicks on and you get right back up to 68 degrees. And here's what's interesting is if you're in a place of relative comfort, and you want to bust out, you want a bigger life, you want a better life, you want more money, you want more fulfillment, and you start taking steps to do that, the folks around you say, Bruce, who are you to start busting out like that? Who are you to take that next step? And what's interesting is that we get kicked back down to 68 degrees. Don't start looking to go to 70. Don't start go even to 69. You're going to get kicked back down into your comfort zone. And that's one of the reasons programs like ones that you just offered our listeners, why coaching, why good mentorship, why mastermind, while accountability partners, all of that matters so much. Because
Walt, we've lost audio?
At the end of the day, and what happens is that really is inside the comfort zone. The fear that we think is real is an illusion. So, Bruce, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. We're having some audio dropout problems, but yes, I can hear you now.
All right. So what I was saying was the fear that seems to keep us safe really keeps us playing small. And what's true is that we need to move outside our comfort zones, no matter how uncomfortable that is, in order for us to discover the work and the lives we love.
You know, all change is inherently scary, even a change for the positive, and that the fear of that change keeps people stuck in situations where they're not happy. That unhappiness manifests at work, it manifests in your relationships at home, it damages yourself. So the key to that is to have the courage. The first step that the Australian walker took, that took more courage than the rest of it. It's getting started. Take the first step, the rest gets easier.
Yeah, I'll tell you the hardest step every morning on my mornings is opening the door. Opening the door to go out. You know, once you create momentum, what can happen out here is truly magical. It really is. So, Bruce, we're 4 minutes from the end of the hour. I had a question that was emailed to me, and as I said at the beginning of the hour, I am happy to. We're happy to respond to whatever questions ended up getting also emailed to us or in the chat. But this one's kind of a big one, and it dovetails nicely with the myths that we know. And the question I had is, what if the job I want, what if the job I advertise, what if it's not on Monster.com, or what if I don't see it on a job board? What about that scenario, Bruce? About somebody who wants a new job, they believe us that the myths are they're ready to bust out, they're ready to take the next step, but they don't see their job out there. What's the answer to that?
Well, in fact, 80% of the jobs that are filled or available each year are not on the classifieds, and they're not online, and they're not with recruiters. That's not a career strategies number. That's from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and there was a study at Harvard done that's very well known in career circles. So chances are 8 out of 10 that you're not going to see what you're looking for, but it's out there. And the whole purpose of our webinar is to show you how to get into that other 80%. So if you're spending your time chasing job vacancies online, you're not really doing an effective job search. You're deluding yourself into thinking that you are. You've got to get smarter on how to win in this highly competitive market.
So Bruce, would it be fair to say then that thinking that you're going to see a job on the job board is that a myth? Is that an eighth myth?
You're going to see stuff on there, but so is everybody else in the world. I had a friend, a colleague, that told me the other day that the internet has made job search harder for the job seeker. And I said, Ed, how could that possibly be? And he said, back in the old days, before the internet, you put your classified in the newspaper, you might get 75 or 100 responses. Now you put it online, you might get 750 or 800 responses. So it's much harder to break through the clutter, chasing after what everybody else is chasing after. The way to win in this market is to go in the back door, to get into that hiring timeline before the companies air their dirty linen, essentially, and put it out there for everybody to see. So there are better ways of doing this, whether it's my book, Walt's book, or a book you might buy at any surviving bookstore about job search. Is going to give you power and control over the process, so you're not chasing after the same vacancies that everybody else is going after. There are better ways.
Well, I want to just add something to that, because I see it time and time again in our work. Some of the best jobs are the jobs that the seeker himself or herself creates, which is to say some of the jobs haven't even been imagined yet by some companies. Some of these ideas that some of our clients have had. I have one client, very successful woman who in the hedge fund, she had identified, number one, that she wanted to go and work fashion, which I thought was very cool. But number two, she wanted a role that didn't exist, was like the chief of staff to a CEO, not a general counsel, not an executive assistant, but a concierge position. And what she realized was these things exist, and the little education of the potential employer about the value proposition that she was going to the table. Amazing things impossible. And so not only is it a minute you're going to find the jobs on .com or a job board, but it's also a myth that the job that you want to create already, it may be one that you self-create. That's going to be really exciting. And so we're at the end of our hour, Bruce, and I love this slide because when we stand in our power, when we stand true value, when we stand in what we bring to the table, when we don't believe the myths we've been told, the possibilities truly endless.
They truly are. We hope we've given you some ideas about how to explore your own possibilities and re-engineer your lives.
So, Bruce, we're going to send out the replay to everybody, live or not. There'll be information in the replay and in the email to all registrants about how they can get your wonderful offer. Thank you for making that. We're here. Bruce is here. I'm here. We're really, if somebody wants to shoot us an email or make a call, we're always happy to flesh out, to help take in the right direction. It's been a great pleasure to have you join us on the call. We've had folks from all over the country, all time zones, and It's a treat to have spent this hour with you. Bruce, thank you for your time. I know you're really busy, and I hope that folks got some great value from this.
Yeah, I thank you, Walter, for the invitation, and for the folks in the audience who, I know some of you have had some audio and video problems. Thanks for hanging in there. We hope we're able to help you today.
All right, Bruce, take good care. We'll talk soon.
Okay, bye-bye.